InfoSec community is totally on high alert where the Lapsus group is making all of the nuisance, guys. So there is one by one attack and one by one compromise this group is taking on. So I thought this is the right time to kick off my threat hunt episodes. So there are some previous episode where I have talked about some tools, but there was no episode where we have talked about and go through the hunt by which you can leverage all those hunting procedures and we can start from like 101. So in today's episode I am going to start the threat hunt episode from scratch. It will be a long journey from starting 101 to maybe 404 or even 505 level, like the way we are doing for incident response as well. Today is day 1 where we will talk about the basics of threat hunt, what is the maturity model is all about, what are the hunting loop all about, what is the pyramid of pain all about, and very last I will show you how you can do the retro hunt for the Lapsus group, and I will share you some very critical information with you guys. Without wasting any further time, let's jump into the session and start right away. Okay guys, so before we start and jump into the actual threat hunting stuff with the practical demo, so first thing, a little bit about the theory. So we just need to be sure on what exactly we are talking about and what are the things. So when we talk about threat hunting, this is the best solution, guys, like the threat hunt maturity model. Okay, by this model we will definitely understand what is exactly threat hunt means and how basically we can leverage this particular model and grow from level 0 to the level 4. Okay, now when I started my threat hunting journey, so this particular thing is very crucial in the community as well, and this is something like a well researched topic in the community. And I get sometime, okay, if I am not following what they are doing, the actual threat hunters in the market or community, then you are lost, right? But the situation is not actually like that. So in the community perspective, what exactly the thing is, either you are in level 0 or you are already in level 4. Okay, so level 0 is the initial state of threat hunting. So well, actually people do not rely on doing much of creation of hypotheses, creation of data learning models. They don't acquire any data specific things and stuff like that. So they depend on the primary automated alerting, right? So it could be coming from your maybe your SIM solution, or it could be coming from your threat intelligence report solution that you might have acquired, or even you might be having some other kind of solution like your reporting options by which you are getting lot of stuff from external third parties or your vendor, stuff like that. So you are totally dependent on only those resources and you are relying on those automated system. Like whenever a SIM throw you an alert, you go there, you create your incident response plan and you do some kind of historical correlation. Okay, so you go beyond the clock when the clock is ticking, and you go to that and you go to identify what has happened in maybe like past maybe 7 days of interval, or even maybe 10 days of interval, right? So those are the things important, that aspect you need to focus on when majority of the things are working in level 0. Now the thing is totally apart, so it's way apart what we talk about at level 4 of threat hunting, where you automatically process your data collection. So that means you have a big data solution, because threat hunters love the big data platform. You know what are the data that you are collecting, and you are processing all of the data using your ML modules, using your artificial intelligence structures, using your PyCharm, PyCode, Adobe, Hadoop, Spark, and lot of stuffs. Okay, and you do not care about like from which resources the data is coming from, because you are totally aware of what are your initial resources are. It could be your threat intelligence, it could be your manual hunting solution, it could be your threat repositories, you could be using your MISP solution, and a lot of stuff like that. So you are already configured all those things way before you do your threat hunting, and you have automated all of your playbooks and all of your high level of data accuracy in that particular platform, and you are now just sitting on your machine and you are getting the result out of it, and you are applying and you are basically creating the report. So that is the level 4 maturity, guys. So now the industry, or when you first start your journey, you might be reading a lot of articles and you might be thinking most of the people are already in the leading phase. Now if I do not know how to create my data sets, how to train those data models, how can I do the threat hunting? So that's come in our main section, guys. So this level 1 to 2 and from 2 to 3. Okay, so this is a majority section, guys, what exactly we need to focus today. Now what is level 1? Okay, so level 1 means you have your minimal threat intelligence data. You might be using some third-party solution, or you have procured in kind of MISP solution like MISSP kind of platform, or they are giving you those kind of data. For example, you could be using Anomaly, okay, or which is a it's a paid solution which can give you the third party solution. You could have a collaboration with even Cyjax, okay, so they are some kind of third party vendors who works on threat intelligence report. They can give you the data from dark web and all those stuffs. Now you have incorporated all those indicators into your platform. Now whenever so today we are going to talk about the Lapsus, right? So when we talk about Lapsus group, so there would be obviously some kind of threat intel which will come from your all of this your threat research, like Anomaly, then Cyjax, if you have Virus Total, all those stuffs, and if you have all those things registered in your place, right? Now using those intelligence, if you are searching the IOCs, indicator of compromise, maybe hash, maybe IPs, maybe domain names, so those are minimal specific of threat hunt, right? So I'm not saying that indicator of compromise means you are already compromised, right? So that means there is nothing hunting we are doing, right? But the scenario is not specific like that, but you are actually leveraging all those threat intelligence data what is already publicly available. You are not only searching all those feeds into your channels, like it could be your SIM solution, it could be any correlation engine that you are having. Now you are going back, okay, you are going back to do the correlation and historical stuff to identify, hey, if there is a hash value that the Lapsus group is working on, then can I identify the same hash values into my network maybe 7 days or 10 days back, or even like 30 days or 60 days back, depending upon how big you are storing your logs, right? So that's a big thing. And the second point is moderate or high level of routine data collection. So that is very important, because without your data, maybe you might be having an EDR solution, you might be having a host intrusion solution, it could be an HIDS, it could be an IDPS, it could be firewalls, and every damn stuff that you might be having into your network. You might be collecting all those information to your SIM, and you have to be very sure on what are the data points you need to go hunting for. For example, if you are talking about Lapsus group, right? So if there is some hash value, so we will see that in a second. Now what are the data set that you need to prefer on? So you need to specifically prefer on your DDR modules, right, or your HIDS modules, which actually has the in-depth intel for your host, what is happening inside your host, right? So that is level 1. So once you have achieved that level, you go to the level 2. That means you have some procedure defined into your space, right? Okay, so this is not something like that, okay, today you have Lapsus and tomorrow maybe you have another ransomware group, okay, and you do not know about that ransomware group by tomorrow, right? So there is no process. So that is level 1. But in level 2, you will have a definite process by which in every day, whenever you receive a threat intel information from everywhere, or you're from your dedicated team, you have a particular process to run this particular hunt. So there is not much difference of the level 1 and level 2, but you have a proper procedure depends identified for your hunt models, right? So what you need to do if there is a ransomware group, what you need to do if there is an APT group, right? So all those information have to be there, and it is defined, documented very well for achieving the level 2 of information. So now we are parting the level 3 information, where basically you creates your new data for your processing. Okay, so what do I mean by create your new data? So as I told you, right, so you might be having your EDR solution, right, which is generating a hell lot of logs, right? Now to go to this particular level 3, what exactly you need, you do not need all of the logs from EDR solution. Now you could be one day you could be acting on your AV logs that is quarantined, that have quarantined your data or your virus solution, or next day might be you are working on a particular data set which is not cleaned. Okay, so that means you are focusing on 2 different data sets into different models, so that you would identify what is the behavioral approach of identification of an EDR solution or kicking in an EDR solution into your platform, right? So that depending on that, you can come up with your use case, you can create your hypothesis. So we will come back in another episode where we'll talk about a deep dive. We will create hypothesis and I will show you what exactly that means. So it's basically nothing, you create a particular theory based on which you have to search for it. Okay, so we will go in a second and we'll see how we do that in Lapsus. But this is an innovative approach, guys. So you are not dependent on only your threat intelligence data that might be coming from your third-party vendors or even your security tools that is generating your data, but you are specifying, going ahead, and you are capturing part by part data from your security solutions, from your threat intelligence data, and you are trying to train that particular model using an anomaly behavioral approach, right? So that is sometimes we called as innovative approach. So this is basic thing about threat hunting, and this is the maturity model. Now depending upon your organization structure, now you can go ahead and you can create your structure like that, right? Okay, so now we are into the threat hunting loop. Okay, so what exactly threat hunting loop means? Okay, so I was telling you about the whole procedure, right, in our previous slide that we talked about the maturity model. Now basically, let's say you are in maturity model 2 or even you are in maturity model 3. Now what are the process that you have to perform a threat hunt operations? Okay, so this is a basic loop. So there is no like 1 2 3 4 steps, it goes round and round by the clock. So what exactly you need to do? So if I concentrate on, this is my first step of creation of hypothesis. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So creation of hypothesis means I have to create some documentation. So I have to understand tools, technique, procedure for a particular threat operations, how they operate, and I need to create some pointers like 1 2 3 4 pointers by which I can understand or I can create my strategy for searching a specific thing. Okay, so let's say Lapsus group, right? So we talked about Lapsus. So what they basically do, they use AD Explorer. Okay, they use something like PS exec. So if you are in community or if you are in security, so you obviously know what are these tools like. So they use also a tool called proc dump they do not use, but they use process hacker, right? So that's the particular tool we have also used in our malware analysis lab, right? So these are the basic tools that these guys uses, okay, for creation of a particular stable point on a particular machine. Now once you know about their tactics, so these are the tools that they are using. Now you know their tactics, right, what exactly they need to do. So you now need to go to identify what are the hashes of PSExec tool, what are the different form of PSExec tool, and what are your resources into in your SOC or in your organization by which you can identify a PSX execution. It could be an EDR platform, okay. It could be a host metric data that you might be collecting from your endpoint, or it could be anything else, okay. So now if we move to our next phase of, so if we can identify some domain information by which Lapsus group is working, if could be a C2 domain, now you go to your third step of data collection. That could be your firewall data, okay, or it could be your proxy data, right? So depending on that, you need to first figure out what are my resources on which I need to search for, okay. Now you prepare a correlation, okay. So if I identify anything on EDR, what do I do to the next step to identify my host? If I identify something on my host, what do I need to do for firewall intrusion, right? So that's it. That is a hypothesis, okay. So that means it is not 100% sure that definitely you will identify something, but there is a chance that you will identify something, right? So that means you have created your hypothesis, you have created your documentation on which you are going to hunt for, okay. So now next thing is that investigate via tools and techniques. So that's the major thing, guys, I was talking about, where you choose your data sources, right? Now what are the specific tools that you have in your organization to do the hunt? So some organization obviously will have an EDR solution, some organization will have an SIEM solution, they might not have an EDR platform, but they might be very enriching on their data collection, right? So you have to identify what are the tools that you have to map for this particular threat hypothesis to run on your hunting job, right? So once you have done that, you now need to go to the new pattern and TTP identification. So as I told you, right, so this is the tools that used by Lapsus group. Now once we understand what are the techniques that also Lapsus group use, so they basically use a stolen certificates which doesn't have right any proper signature information. They try to incorporate that compromise certificate into a malware tool so that your endpoint can trust that, and they will run their whatever they want using that particular certificate and executable, right? So that is one technique that they are using, right? So now once you know that particular technique that they are using, what are the things you need to go for and how basically you can map those things into your this hypothesis, right? So that's called new pattern or TTP identification. So once you create your hypothesis, you have mapped to that particular tools and techniques, you go to identify the TTP. So that is your third phase. And fourth phase, what we go and look for is the inform and enrich your analytics, right? So what do I mean by that? Now let's say there are like two data set we are working on, okay. So one data set is your EDR logs that is giving you an ultimate data, searching for all these hashes for this AE Explorer, PS exec, process hacker, all those stuffs. And second data set is probably your firewall logs, okay, where you are actually executing this domain information, or even something like your C2 information or IP address information, stuff like that, right? Now what do I mean by inform and enrich your this analytics, okay? That means you are not only dependent on whatever you have identified into your machine, but you are also dependent on enriching that particular data using your threat intelligence information. Yes guys, so that means you go to your tools like you can go to VirusTotal, you can go to your third-party vendors that provides you feed, something like an Anomaly, or even an open source solution, something like MISP, right? So you go to those tools and you go to map now these your data sources to identify what are the threat intelligence information you have about those data sources. Now if you do not have any threat intelligence data set, so that means that particular data set is very new for your particular platform and you have to build on that, right? Now if you have identified something already and your these open source platforms and this public information is already giving you those information, that means you are on right direction and you can segregate all those data into different steps, right? So one step could be your two step, what is actually malicious, obviously from your threat intelligence, and one thing is non-malicious. Okay, so now if you identified 1 2 3 4 information from your malicious data set, you know what to do, right? You can go to your incident response team, and you can go and you can tell them, hey, look, I have identified these hashes into my platform, so it is the right time to kick off your incident response process and take the further actions, right? So by which you will definitely identify what exactly is going on, right? And the next phase is the non-malicious stuff, right? So that means you have identified something, some non-malicious information is going on. Now it's up to you, so that you can create another hypothesis onto your non-malicious data set, and you create this whole loop, and you go circle by circle to identify what you need to do with that data set, right? So this total things talks about the threat hunt loop, and now we will see the pane of pyramid, what is actually all about. Okay guys, so we are in pane of pyramid section that we need to talk about. So what is exactly the pane of pyramid? So if you see, this particular pyramid is going from the bottom to up, and you are going from hash values to your IP addresses to your domain names, network forensics or host artifacts, then tools, and then TTPs. Okay, and if you see the hardness of identifying something is going very up in the top level. So as much as you move to the top of this section, you are going to the tough region, and if you hit the bottom, it is very trivial, and you can identify that thing is very easy. Now if you have identified some hash values for your TTPs or threat advisories that you are talking about, you can directly search those things into your EDR platform or your host intrusion data, right? So that is very trivial, you can identify that very easy. Now what are the other things that we can identify? We can identify IP addresses, that is again easy. We can identify domain names, that is also very simple. But the annoying thing comes from this network and host artifacts, guys. So you never know that if there is a particular information, or you have identified some anomalous communication, maybe a C2 communication going on, and you do not have any information about that particular IP address, that particular domain name that is your machine is talking about. So it is very, very difficult for you to go and identify what is going on. It is right thing, it is wrong thing. So that's the reason your network and host artifacts come into picture. So maybe you have identified today a Python script was running into your host, right? Now you go to the what are the specific of that particular Python process that is running, what are the modules that is calling, you have identified. So now this is called your host artifacts, right? Now how you can map that host artifact, and how you can identify whether this is a like malicious data or not, right? So that is very, very annoying things to do. Now what exactly is the best solution for going to these particular 3 steps? So as I told you in our first process, right, so we gathered the data, and in these 3 steps we apply a machine learning algorithm, right? So you have your data set already, you do not go and identify each thing manually. So either you go for something like a symmetric algorithm by which you can identify what is going on, or even you can go to your asymmetric algorithm. So we will come back in different sections for these particular things to identify how machine learning can come into picture and get these things done. But in a brief or in a nutshell, what is basically we are trying to do? So let's say you have defined a particular ML job. What this ML job will do, this ML job will go through all of your network artifacts or host artifacts, and it will try to segregate the data between 2 things, what is normal and what is abnormal. Okay, so now once that job has done, so it is now very easy to identify. So let's say this is a particular graph that you are working on, okay, and let's say your machine talks about a particular domain name for every day like this. So your graph will be like this, some for every day, like so this is a particular communication, you can say, in this particular y-axis, and this is the day of information, right, or hour, maybe whatever, depending on your bandwidth you can cover on. Now certainly in 1 hour you see there is a spike of communication. it could be a known thing for you, but there could be something else also. Now you might have not seen this particular spike in whole week or even whole month, right? So in human eye, it is very much impossible to identify all of those anomalous thing, right? So this threshold based kind of platform, so you can easily identify this through your ML job, right? So that is a main thing to identify in ML job. So we will see in coming up episode how you can apply those ML job using Elastic or all those other platforms, so that this thing becomes easy for you. Okay, next thing is very tough, that is your TTP collection. Okay, so I will not waste much time while explaining the TTPs. In my previous episode I have also explained this TTP thing, but just remember, once we deep dive in a second in our practical approach, you will understand how these TTP things basically work. So we will identify a particular tactics mechanism for a threat advisory, and we will try to come up a retro hunt, and we will perform that in a minute. Okay, so that's overall about our theoretical aspect, guys, and now let's move on and let's see what exactly the practical approach that we can take into this. Okay guys, so we are starting on the practical approach of doing the hunt. So as I told you how basically you can use this attack navigator, so this so by the way, if you do not know, there is an episode, I will link that in the description, that is coming in the I button as well. Please check out that, how you can utilize attack navigator. So for Lapsus group, what I did, I have collected all of the threat intelligence information, and I have tried to identify what are their process of working. So okay, so and depending on that, I have mapped their tools, techniques and procedure in the attack navigator, and I have downloaded that. Okay, so the red sections are their procedural things by which they operate. Okay, so once it becomes very easy for you once you have identified their process. Now you can create and go for hunt hypothesis, right? So by the way, if you need the editable version of this, please reach out to me on my LinkedIn. I'll be happy to share that information with you. Okay, so moving on, so there is an already information available by Florian Ruth. So he has made an Yara file. So what this Yara file does, it detects a binary signed with leaked NVIDIA certificate and compiled after March 1st. Okay, so the threat advisory, the Lapsus group, they are basically utilizing this particular leaked NVIDIA certificate, and they are trying to push that particular certificate in any kind of binary execution so that your machine can be compromised, right? So this is one Yara technique, okay, by which we will run the hunt operations. Okay, so now if we consider how we can do that, so what basically is our target, we will create different Yara rules just by understanding the threat operations of the Lapsus group. So that I have told you, right? So they use AD Explorer, they use PSExec, and we have also observed they tend to drop mimikatz on your machine so that they can collect the LSAS process, the signature of the machine, the silver ticket and stuff like that, so that they can steal the authentication token from your machine, right? So those are the important TTPs of it. So okay, so what we can do, we will go to the virus total, that is open intelligence for everyone. We will go to this hunting section. Okay, and if you see this particular live hunt cell rule, so what we are going to do, we will create some rules. Okay, so the first rule that I have created, so anyway, so I have just incorporated the rule that is created by Florian Ruth. So I have just modified a little bit of it, and what I have done, this is the custom rule that I have created. So I have created all of the procedural things by which you can catch a mimikatz explosion or a PSExec explosion or an AD explosion, and using that I am going to execute a hunt in my organization. Okay, and you can follow that same as well. Okay, so what are these particular API things? And if you do not know how to write an Yara, so there is another episode, go check out that. I'll leave the link in the description, coming in the I button as well, so it will be an easy peasy for you. Okay, now there is a bit tricky thing while you prepare those Yara symbols. Okay, what I have done basically, so I have downloaded the AD Explorer and the process hacker as well. Okay, and I have done a static analysis of it just to identify what is their entropy, what are the modules they are calling up, what are the strings values they are using, and I have incorporated all of the string values and all of the binary compulsion that they are using in an particular ASCII format over here, right? So if I get any of this particular file or any of the process being called on any of the executable, that is suspicion for me. Okay, so obviously it could lead you false positive as well, but threat hunt is something like that, right? So you have to first identify what is wrong, what is right, then you, based on that, you go to the next level, right? Okay, so the next thing is that we have incorporated all of the hashes that is responsible for this particular TTP, the Lapsus group, and we have directly running this particular option. So what are the condition that we are giving? We are bothered about the file size which is greater than 800 KB. We do not care about less than that. We are care about only this particular unit 16, the binary value of it, like the hex value of it, right? So if you open a particular file in hex editor, the magic number that you will see, right? So that is the first thing, that is a Unix 16 0 position that comes. So we are only concentrated about that thing, and any of the string value if that matches, or in any of this particular API section matches, or you will identify any of the important hash matches. So once we have done this PE imp hash, so that means what it will do, it will try to match the hash values, whatever the hashes that is malicious and used by Lapsus group, and it will try to identify what other files could be of similar match with this particular file, right? So how you are using this particular file, because there is very less information or IOCs that can be achieved from Lapsus group, because they work on a different kind of fashion, right? So now if you need a threat intelligence or a customized one, so let me know, DM me, I'm happy to share that what I have made for some of my customers, right? So now what exactly we are going to do over here, so we are going to leverage this particular these two rules. If you go to this retro hunt section, okay, so what is retro hunt means? Okay, so retro hunt means you can create a particular job. Okay, so what is that mean? So once you have created this particular Yara rule, so you will come to this particular section, you have saved the particular rule. Okay, and what you need to do, you can come to this particular section and you can create your email address. You can come to here and you can create a notify. So the corpus means on which data set you want to run this particular job set on. Okay, so I don't want to notify anyone, so you can just simply create this particular job. Okay, so once you have created this particular job, so it will start, and what this will do, this particular job will go to the virus total and try to match your Yara rule and try to give you all of the information that might be relating with your Yara rule, right? So it is already finished. It takes longer time, but it's finished because I have ran this particular thing 2 days ago, right? So if you focus on these certified expired things, so what you have seen, you have 145 matches, guys. Okay, so now if you can simply go to these matches, so now you see there are a lot of hashes that you have identified. So initially our data set was very limited. We have only around like 20 odd hashes. But once we have run the Yara rule using our retro hunt process in virus total, because virus total is a, it's a big database of all of your resources, right? So once you have identified all of the hashes, so these are the hashes that could be like similar binary compulsion of the processes that is getting used by Lapsus group, right? So once you have collected all those information, you can simply download this file, or maybe you can download everything. And once you are done with that, now go your EDR solution and apply these hashes and check whether you have any hit or not. Okay, but there is another process also. If your EDR solution is capable of running direct Yara like option, that is also a solution, so that what you can do, you do not need to go to this virus total section, and you do not need to run this particular rule here. Rather than you can run this particular Yara rule directly to your EDR solution. So what will that will do, it will try to match the entropy of the particular files which is responsible for the Lapsus group and your files of like whatever the files you are in your organization, right? If there is a match, so obviously it has to kick off something process, and that is a worrisome point for you guys, right? But this is a easy process by which if you are not familiar how to run Yara directly through your EDR, so you can come here into the VirusTotal section, and if you can go to this particular live hunt notification, as you see, so I have a lot of hash files that I have identified after I ran this particular 2 Yara rules in the VirusTotal. What I have done, I have went ahead and asked my customers to run these hash values against their EDR solution. Okay, so once they are done with that, so definitely they have identified something that is a worrisome point, and that point of time they kick on their incident response process and to identify what is going on to their network, right? So this is an easy process, guys, by which you can do the retro hunt. And by now I believe you have got some idea about the hunting process and procedural things, but stay tuned for more. So yes guys, so that's pretty much about today's episode. So I hope you have got some brief idea what is exactly hunt means, how we can perform that, what are the life cycle of hunt looks forward, and how you can do the retro hunt to identify what are the different tactics procedural that is going on for any kind of threat actors, right? Now if you need any further information on Lapsus group, or you are preparing some detection mechanism for your organization, if you need help, do reach out to me on my LinkedIn. You will find the link in the description of that particular video. So I am pretty much active on there, so I'll be happy to help for your detection process as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now if you have enjoyed this session, please leave a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe Black Pearl so that you get all those notifications coming up. Obviously I was thinking to create a membership solution for Black Pearl, and I have created a poll as well in YouTube and LinkedIn as well. So if you are interested on that, so we can perform mock interviews, you can talk directly live with me, we can do the mentorship stuff as well, and a lot of things I was thinking to plan up, but that could be something like an paid membership. But do not worry too much, because that will be really helpful for your pocket as well. But yeah, it's because like it also worth my time and like whatever the efforts that I am putting to the community as well, right? So if you are interested in that, please comment me and let me know, so I'll be happy to answer all of your queries. And yeah, so I'll catch you guys next time. Stay healthy, stay safe.